We are here at C2E2 with the one and only Alex Garland. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
So we got a peek at DEVS a little bit earlier at the panel. Wow, it looks amazing. It's really interesting though. I had all these questions planned, and then when you were talking a little bit about what your films are, and you said that you don't really see them as sci-fi. I was actually having a conversation with my buddy a couple of days ago. We had a very similar kind of take on it. I think, personally, and me, obviously you're the guy who writes it, but I kind of look at your stuff as it's more about what it means to be alive, and in the literal sense, the metaphysical sense, and the metaphorical sense. So what do you feel about those kind of topics? And
in a way, I don't mind people call it sci-fi or not. It's fine. But the thing I'm really interested in is exactly what you just said. Being alive is strange and kind of can be amazing, can be awful, and all points in between. And in the end, that's really what I want to write about, and I want to make films about, or TV shows about, or write novels about. And so something like Annihilation could seem like just a sort of weird fever dream or something like that, but it is actually about stuff, and the stuff it's about is things that we have to encounter and deal with in our life. So basically that's what I see the subject matter of.
I was actually telling you before we started this that my introduction to you was not Ex Machina, it was The Beach. So as someone who started writing novels, to transition to screenwriting, then transition to directing in film, but then also in TV, how does that all differ? I mean, it's very similar, but at the same time, I have to imagine there's varying degrees of differences.
It's much more similar than it is different. It's got all of those mediums, and I'm sure you could chuck, say, theatre in there as well. They've got much more in common with each other than it feels like they'll have. But if I was going to get into the sort of minutiae of it, I guess, then I'd say that there's a strong correlation between television and novels. And a lot of that is just to do with time. It's to do with how deeply you can explore something, or not exactly explore one thing, but explore several things. Usually in a movie you have to focus, and TV and also novels are just basically broader canvases.
So in regards to like the structure of things, do you kind of stick to like, this is the structure I like a 3-act for film and I like this for TV, or do you kind of like to play around and like, here's some 5-act stuff but in a different way, or do you just kind of want to tell the story you're telling and it kind of flows from there?
Yeah, more the latter. I sort of think in acts, kind of, but only in really basic terms, like a beginning, a middle, and an end. I often think like where somebody who really cares about acts might say the act break lies, I'm sort of like, okay, sure, I think that also you can probably get too hung up about those things on like the mathematics of it, and basically it's just a story. But for me, its closest correlation often is just two people talking. How do you convey this bit of information to someone else? Like, you could be in a bar and someone's telling you a story about something that happened to them yesterday, and they're not thinking in act structures, but the experience of receiving the story is actually kind of like the experience of watching a film.
I never really thought about that. It's very much when someone tells a story, they tell it in a way that they think will be best presenting the story. I never really thought about that. It's kind of interesting.
Good storytellers and bad storytellers.
Yeah, no, I know my fair share of both. It's amazing to actually get to sit and talk with you. Like I said, I've been a fan of your stuff for a long time, so with something like Dread, which is something I didn't even know you were involved with until recently, but I love that movie. How much do you want to, are you involved in any of those rumored talks of continuing it as a show? And if that was something, would you be interested in playing with the character again?
I'm not involved, and wouldn't want to be involved. I've got nothing against franchises and sequels and that kind of thing, but something like Dread, it's very intensive, 2.5 years of work. At the time I'm done with it, and you need a particular kind of mindset to be able to do a trilogy, and it's just not something I've got. Usually, when I finish a story, I just want to get the hell away from it and do something completely different.
You are preaching to the choir. So now that you've delved into TV, I know you mentioned you definitely want to get back into more of that. Would you be something very similar in terms of like the 8-episode structure, or would you want to kind of play in a new wheelhouse, or?
Yeah, 8 episodes feels like it works for me because I want to write and direct all the episodes, and I think that more than 8, I'd probably, there'd be diminishing returns. I wouldn't be able to do the job in the way I want to be able to do it for like basic reasons like exhaustion, the hours in the day, how much one can cope with. Instinctively, 8 episodes feels like my limit.
No, yeah, as someone who loves watching TV as well as trying to make stuff, I find that 8 to 10 episodes is a really good sweet spot. One of my favorite shows recently was Legion, and what they were able to do in those 8 to 10 episodes were just mind-boggling to me. What, as a filmmaker, what are you watching, or I guess as a writer and just as a creator, what are you kind of delving into right now in terms of your own personal interests?
The 2 films that have had the strongest impression on me recently were The Lighthouse and Parasite. I think what both of them do is they shine a really bright light in some respects on how boring the rest of us are, that we repeat these same stories and these same structures again and again and again. And both of those films have this kind of, it's more than that they're original. There's a kind of freshness to the whole conceptual way they approach stories. And I really kind of loved every frame of both those movies. And I think they, I was very pleased actually that Parasite then got sort of recognized and rewarded in the way that it did. I thought it had really earned that.
It was very awesome to see a film like that get not just so much recognition, but to win.
Yeah, but also I do want to name check The Lighthouse because it has not had the amount of fating that Parasite has had. As I said, it deserves it completely. I think The Lighthouse was also a really, really interesting film, and I'd love more and more people to contact it. It's beautiful work.
No, it is absolutely. Plus, powerhouse performances from Dafoe and Pattinson. I can see why. I can understand why they gave him Batman now. I can't imagine they're like, oh, Batman, guy from Twilight. I'm sure he had to fight for that role. And seeing some of the stuff he's done with like A24, I think is very interesting to me.
Yeah, who knows what he had to go through to get that role. All I know is that he's kind of mesmerizing actor. Both of them are.
Without question.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting. It was great, and I'm super excited to see the rest of DEVS and see everything you do in the future. So thank you so much.
Cheers. Appreciate it.
Very nice meeting you.
Thank you.